We see the year 2053, a time when crime in Australia has surged. We are told that all the jails in the country are completely full, so the government orders prisoners to be locked in boxes and thrown onto an island far from the city to free up space. The government has also set strict rules for these prisoners, which must be followed. They receive food and water only with the permission of the city's residents. Additionally, if a prisoner breaks the rules, they are denied food and water. Any prisoner attempting to escape was executed. We see a woman imprisoned in a box and thrown onto the island. She is prisoner number 70123, sentenced to 4 years, meaning she must remain in the box for that duration. Deprived of food and water for a long time, her condition deteriorates, and she loses all hope. Seeking relief from her suffering, she decides to end her life. She takes a small blade hidden in the corner of the box and slits her throat, dying instantly. In the next scene, we see a girl and a young boy on the island playing with a ball made of rope. The ball accidentally hits a box, inside which is prisoner number 371,113, Amy. She has just been imprisoned and thrown onto the island. The impact of the ball wakes Amy up, and she realizes her hands and feet are tied with rope. Panicked, she quickly frees herself. Just then, a small window in the box opens, revealing that she is on the seashore. Terrified, Amy pounds on the walls of the box, begging to be released. Suddenly, a screen inside the box turns on, displaying a woman who informs Amy that her crime has been proven in court, and she has been sentenced to 7 years in the box. The woman also tells her that she will receive food and water only with the permission of the people she betrayed. We see Amy scream, insisting that she is innocent, but no one listens. The next day, when Amy wakes up, she is extremely thirsty. She extends her food bowl through the window, hoping for water, but finds no one around. Desperate, she starts inspecting the box for an escape route. However, when she touches one of the openings, she receives a powerful electric shock. Now, as time passes, difficulties for Amy continue to increase, making her survival even harder. Meanwhile, we see another box containing prisoner number 13558. This prisoner desperately searches for a way to escape, but accidentally activates an alarm. The siren inside the box starts blaring, and suddenly, sharp rods descend from the roof, piercing the prisoner's body. As a result, she gets electrocuted and dies a terrible death. The next morning, we see Amy. A girl named Sally approaches her box and wakes her up. Sally offers Amy some food and water. Amy then tries to convince her that she is innocent and has never harmed anyone. In response, Sally tells her that the general public will decide whether she is guilty or not. She also reveals that Amy is not the only prisoner here. Many other boxes are scattered around. Amy survives for a few days with the little food and water she receives. But one day, she becomes overwhelmed with despair and considers ending her life. She picks up a rope lying in the box and begins to strangle herself but stops at the last moment, breaking down in tears. Amy blames herself, questioning what wrong she had done to deserve such punishment. As time passes, Amy starts accepting her fate. She begins distracting herself to cope with the situation and spends time looking out of the small window in her box. One morning, when she reaches her hand outside, she finds the same ball that the young boy had thrown earlier in the story. Amy starts playing with the ball to pass time, which helps keep her mind calm. A few more days go by. Then, a drone arrives and lifts Amy's box from the island, dropping it in a dense forest where numerous other boxes are already placed. Here, we see prisoner number 180102, who was sentenced to 5 years and has already spent 896 days inside. Having served nearly half of his sentence, he has come to terms with his punishment, realizing that he must pay for his past mistakes. The next day, we see Amy again. A girl named Mary approaches her box and asks, "What are you doing?" Amy replies, "I am serving a 7-year sentence here." Mary then asks, "Have you heard of William Shakespeare?" Amy shakes her head, indicating she hasn't. Mary hands her a book, encouraging her to read, but Amy hesitates, refusing to take it since it is against the rules of the box. Undeterred, Mary asks Amy to come closer. As Amy cautiously steps forward, Mary gently holds her hand and begins reading a few lines from Shakespeare's book aloud. Amy feels a sense of comfort after listening to these lines. Before leaving, Mary hands her a small bag containing food pills and promises to visit again. Since Amy had met someone after a long time, she feels strange and overwhelmed. Lying down on the floor of the box, she starts touching herself. Unbeknownst to her, everything is being recorded by the CCTV camera inside the box. After a while, Amy eats her food and discovers a small book hidden inside the food packet, something Mary had secretly placed in the bag. Realizing this, Amy turns her back to the camera to keep the book out of sight. When she opens it, she finds out that it is a book by William Shakespeare. Using the last of her water, Amy cleans her wounds, as they had become crucial to treat. After this, she throws the remaining water out of the window, unaware that everything is being recorded by CCTV. Since wasting water is against the rules, Amy is taken back to the seashore as punishment. Sometime later, Mary arrives at the shore, approaches Amy, and asks, "What did you do to get sent back here?" Amy avoids answering and instead asks Mary how the general public decides which prisoners get food and which ones do not. Mary explains, "I simply roam around the prisoners' boxes, talk to them, and provide food. But due to bad weather, I sometimes unable to reach all of them." Hearing this, Amy tells her, "You remind me of my younger sister, who died a long time ago." After this, Mary leaves, and Amy is left alone once again. Now, Amy has nothing but a small book, which she always reads in secret, keeping it hidden from the camera. A few days later, the drone finds her and relocates her to another place. At this location, a man appears, eating an apple as he approaches Amy's box. He taunts Amy and asks, "Do you want to eat this apple?" Amy pleads with him, "Please have some mercy on me." But the man refuses. He then says, "None of you prisoners deserve mercy, you all should be hanged." Since Amy had been starving for a long time, she repeatedly begs for the apple. The man smirks and says, "If you make me happy, I'll give you this apple." Desperate, Amy agrees. Although intimacy was strictly against the rules of the box, the man gets intimate with Amy. Meanwhile, a drone spots what is happening. Without warning, it shoots at the man, killing him instantly. One of the bullets grazes Amy's leg, causing her immense pain. Despite her injury, she reaches out of the box and grabs the apple from the dead man's hand. However, when she takes a bite, she discovers it is infested with worms and cannot eat it. That night, while Amy is sleeping, a loud siren suddenly blares inside the box, jolting her awake. The screen turns on, and a woman appears, stating, "You made a deal with that man in exchange for food, which is against the rules. As punishment, you must stay awake for 7 days." She then warns Amy, "This is your final warning. If you break another rule, you will receive the death penalty." As morning arrives, Amy struggles to keep her eyes open. Each time she closes them, the siren blares loudly, and flashing lights flood the box, preventing her from sleeping. To resist sleep, she starts banging her head against the walls of the box. As days pass without sleep, Amy begins hallucinating. She starts seeing a woman standing in front of her. Her mind spirals into madness, unable to grasp reality. Finally, after 7 days, her punishment ends. Exhausted, Amy collapses into a deep sleep and remains asleep for several days. One night, she is awakened by the sound of firecrackers. Curious, she looks out of the window and realizes people are celebrating the new year. On this occasion, the government announces a reduction in the sentences of some prisoners. One day, an old woman approaches Amy's box and says, "I spent 15 years in a box like this. It was the most painful experience of my life." Before leaving, she hands Amy a rusty blade. Amy contemplates cutting her hand with the blade but cannot bring herself to do it. Just then, Mary arrives. At first, Amy thinks she is hallucinating again, but Mary assures her that she is real. Mary gives her water and reads a page from Shakespeare's book, helping Amy regain her will to live. After this meeting, Amy feels a renewed sense of hope, and the desire to survive awakens within her once more. In this way, a few months pass, and Amy begins to notice her stomach growing. Soon, she realizes that she is pregnant as a result of her encounter with the Apple Man. That very night, Mary arrives and attempts to free Amy from captivity. However, the sensor in the box detects unauthorized activity, triggering the sirens. Alarmed, Mary quickly flees, and the sirens stop automatically. The next morning, a man approaches Amy and asks if she wants mercy from him. Before she can respond, he points to a nearby box that he had burned. It becomes clear that anyone who sought help from him was met with the same fate. Understanding this, Amy refuses his help. More months pass, and Amy's child is about to be born. After enduring excruciating pain, she gives birth inside the box. Holding her newborn in her arms, she feels a moment of pure happiness, forgetting all the suffering she had endured for years. However, her joy is short-lived. Soon, the sensor in the box detects another presence, identifying that Amy is no longer alone. A loud siren blares, and gas begins to fill the box, causing Amy to lose consciousness. When she regains awareness, she is devastated to find that her child has died. Overcome with grief, she screams in agony, desperately crying out for her baby to come back. The next morning, heavy rain begins to fall, and water starts seeping into Amy's box. As the water level rises, she begins shivering from the cold. The excess water also damages the security system of the box. The authorities, assuming that Amy is tampering with the system, issue a stern warning. If you continue interfering with security, you will be eliminated. Shortly after, a countdown begins inside the box, and the water level continues to rise. Amy starts drowning, screaming for help. At that moment, a drone arrives to execute her. Just as it prepares to fire, a bolt of lightning strikes it, causing it to burn and crash. The impact of the waves then causes Amy's box to be swept away into the sea. At the end of the story, we see a group of children playing on an island. Suddenly, they notice Amy's box washed up on the shore. As the box opens, Amy crawls out, collapsing onto the sand. However, upon seeing her, the children do not help. Instead, they ignore her and run away, and with this, the movie comes to an end.